No, it starts at 8 in the morning.
They're young though, they're probably light.
I think we'll get out by lunch.
Yes, it does, bad health.
Sunny, how are ya?
Damn
How
near
you feeling?
perfect.
Are you doing better? Yeah?
Why?
Color looks good.
Yeah, most of the time.
Good.
You know, I still have those moments, you know,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Missing your parts or no?
Yeah,
Hmm?
yeah. I would
You
be
missing your
concerned
parts or
about
no?
that, too.
Hardly know it's gone, huh?
Yeah, we're good. Told Dan, if it was days like today, if I had 14 less employees, I'd be damn near perfect,
There
you
you
know?
Amen, brother.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order this June 6th meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Please join us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bonnie, will you please read the roll?
Lathrop,
I'm here.
Mayor,
Here.
Gorfulet,
Here,
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Johnson,
Here.
Klaus,
Here.
and Commissioner Crawford is excused tonight.
If there are no changes to the minutes, they will stand approved as presented.
A motion that we approve the minutes?
Support. Motion by Commissioner Mayer, supported by Commissioner Johnson. This is time for first public comment. Bonnie?
You need to call all in favor?
You want to vote?
I, okay, let's do that. Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bonnie, would you read the consent calendar, please?
Certainly. Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson. Please be respectful and refrain from personal or political attacks.
Anybody for public comment?
Good evening, Matthew Scheck, 306 9th Street, Traverse City. I just wanted to address something that's been brought up recently about child care services provided to government employees here at the governmental center. Well, I'm really opposed to this idea. It competes with other businesses out there, and I don't really see a good end to it based on that government always seems to grow, and who knows what else will grow off of any type of service like that. Although I'm not opposed to child care services, my wife and I raised 3 children. We adjusted our lives to fit for our children because we realized that the first 3 years of life were the most important. So one of us was at least with them for those first 3 years. I even adjusted my work schedule by working afternoons so that I could spend more time with my children. But we're talking about government money here. And while we're talking about money, there's something that Nobel laureate Milton Friedman said. He said there are only 4 ways to spend money. You can spend your own money on yourself, you can spend your own money on someone else, or you can spend someone else's money on you, and you can spend someone else's money on someone else. When you spend your money on yourself, you care about how much you spend and the quality of goods purchased. When spending your money on someone else, you care about the cost, but not so much about the quality. If you spend someone else's money on you, you care less about the cost, but still care about the quality. And finally, when you spend someone else's money on someone else, you have the weakest incentives to care about both the amount you spend and the quality of what you are purchasing. And as observed throughout all of history, all government spending is the fourth kind, spending someone else's money on someone else. And so I'm here as a taxpayer, and I'm just letting you guys know that good ideas sometimes don't pay out really in the long run. In fact, every assumption of power is always based on good ideas, but they always run afoul. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Then we'll move on to the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Bridget Tente. I live at 4517 Ground Pine Trail in Acme Township. I'm here to represent Friends of Easing Pool. I wanted to thank you all for your words of support last month and to look into directing some money to our pool renovation project. I urge you to make that happen later on today. And if you have any questions about what we've done, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, are there any more public comments? All right, we'll go on to approving the agenda. Does anyone have anything they would like to add or change on the agenda? If not, I'd like a motion to.
Motion to approve the agenda is provided.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Mayer.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
We'll
You're
get there.
getting there, Ron.
Right at the end. We'll get there at the end.
Yeah.
Consent calendar, Bonnie.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency minutes of April 19th. Number 2, Department of Health and Human Services minutes of April 27th. B, approvals. Number 1, Sheriff's Office Property Room Surplus. Number 2, Equalization L 4029 2018 Tax Rate Request. Number 3, Commission on Aging Proceed with RFP for Home Case Management Software. Number 4, Animal Control Memorandum of Understanding with Cherryland Humane Society. Number 5, Paper and Office Supply Recommendation. Number 6, Planning Agreement.
Does anybody like anything removed from the consent calendar? Cheryl?
B6.
Did you say
It
B6?
said B as in boy,
Thank you.
6.
Anybody else?
We see people here from Animal Control. Do they want to speak? Do you want to speak about animal control? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Could I
I
give-
move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item B6.
Support?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Takes us to special order of business, presentation by Matt.
Did you need the TVs on? Are you doing
I
a
do,
power?
I do not. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Matt?
Hello.
My name is Matt McCauley. I am the CEO of Networks Northwest. A bit of a new face for some of you, at least in this role. Here tonight to talk about our annual report. We just completed this. I'll go through this fairly quickly, but page by page, just so you can see the breadth and depth of what we're involved in at Networks Northwest. On the inside cover, you'll see probably one of the more notable things that occurred to the agency last year. Elaine Wood retired after 42 years of service with the organization. So many decades of experience there, and I'm very humbled and honored that the board selected me to become the next CEO of the agency. For those of you not as familiar with me, I've been with the agency now for about 15 years. Most of that time with the Community Development Department. I was the Director of Community Development and Regional Planning. So basically what Networks Northwest is, it's a 10-county public agency, so Northwest Lower Michigan, Emmett County, south to Meskwaki County, west to Manistee, and everything in between. Geographically speaking, it's about the size of Connecticut. There's 190 units of government, including Grand Traverse County, within that larger region. And what we do, we work with the business community, job seekers, and local units of government to help build prosperity and resiliency within the region. There's three main buckets, if you will, to the agency, and that's talent, business, and community. And the idea being that you need all three of those to work hand in hand in order for prosperity to occur within any region. That economic development isn't just business, it's not just talent, and it's certainly not just local units of government. It's those three things working together. So to begin a little bit on page 3, just an overview of our centers. We're probably most well known for our Michigan Works services. We have Michigan Works centers throughout that 10-county region, Petoskey, Kalkaska, Cadillac, Manistee, and Traverse City. Last year, we had 36,000 people come through the doors of those centers, job seekers. And our goal is to match job seekers with employers. For obvious reasons that I don't have to state, these numbers are down from previous years. That's a good thing, right? We want to support our businesses, and we want our region at full employment. So to have less numbers with regards to this pie chart, that's a positive. One of the things that you'll see throughout this entire document, I hope that it doesn't read like a typical annual report. It was purposeful to mix stories with data. So much what we do is working with the individual, working with a business, working with a community, that the story is far more important in my mind than the data. So you'll see throughout here, and it begins on page 4, with Melanie Robinson, just talking about how she used the centers and the services that we offered to find gainful employment and to better support her family. The performance data, we met or exceeded all of the federal performance standards put forth for workforce development. As you move to page 6, one of I think the best things about the Michigan Works program is that it's demand driven. And what I mean by that is we work with individual businesses to find out what are the types of employees, what are the skill sets that they are looking for in order to build and expand their book of business. And what we do is we play matchmaker to the skill sets that are available out there in the community, or we provide training to individuals so they can be a better employee for our local businesses in the region. So what you'll see there is the number of individuals within the occupational area that we trained in 2017. On page 7, it speaks to the apprenticeship program. This is relatively new. All of you have heard us talk about this before, but just in the last couple of years, more and more investment, rightfully so, with regards to apprenticeships, recognizing that there are lots of good jobs, admirable jobs out there that don't necessarily require a 4-year university or college degree, and that can be obtained through an apprenticeship, something that we as a society maybe lost a little track of, but has been part of our fabric for thousands of years. And we're very proud to offer a variety of different apprenticeship programs. One of note, we offered the very first a wine and brewing apprenticeship offered in the state of Michigan, and that was actually nationally recognized and now is being replicated all over the state and nation, just embracing a burgeoning part of the economy and value-added agriculture. Number 8, Jobs for Michigan Grads. This is really working with students to ensure their graduation and to ensure their graduation in such a way where it's a track for employment. To work with, again, with employers, with students, and allow for an environment for learning about what are the skills that they need to contribute in their community and be part of the employment mix within our local areas. On page 9, this speaks to Newton's Road. Newton's Road is a program I'm really impressed with. It began actually within this community, that we had private sector leadership. A local manufacturer came forth and said, we need more kids who are interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, because that's our pipeline. That's our workforce pipeline. And there's a recognition by many of our local employers that the kids here today are far more likely to stay, and if we're able to get them interested in some of the skill sets that are needed for our companies within the region, that helps the kids, that helps families, and most importantly, that helps our businesses. A variety of different teachers trained, 3D printers, and a multitude of classrooms. Really a highlight of what we're doing as it relates to that workforce pipeline. Adult Ed on page 10. We had 650 students enrolled in Adult Ed last year. This is just an amazing program. These are individuals, as we all know within this room, that a high school diploma or GED is a core requirement for almost any type of employment that you're looking for. So to be able to assist those who do not have that in hand as a means for just a first step to become employed and become self-sufficient, it's a really a remarkable program, and one that I'm very, very proud of. On the next page, the Offender Success Program. This is the part of the presentation where I get to say recidivism, everyone's favorite word. But the bottom line is, as we all know, it's very costly to have prisoners in the jail and prison system. And when there are returning parolees to the community, to have a variety of services to assist them with housing, transportation, employment, as a means to become self-sufficient and be part of society once again. This has been a tremendously successful program all across the state, and has saved the taxpayer a lot of money over the years. The next page, just talking about some of those demand-driven activities that we're engaged in. Again, working with employers, what do they need to build their workforce? So that could mean something as simple as offering space for a hiring day at one of our Michigan Work Centers. It could mean going out to the local business and working with the founder or president on what are some specific needs as it relates to training. It can mean a whole host of things. The next page, talking to the Skilled Trades Training Fund. This is another area where relatively new through the state of Michigan, but providing more resources for the skilled trades. Again, recognizing that not all those entering into the workforce need a four-year university or college degree, and that there's a different set of skills that are needed in the workplace. This provides resources to do so. Interesting factoid on this program, that this is the second year in a row that as a region we've somewhat played above our weight class, if you will. That with regards to the state's businesses, we have about 3.7% of population of businesses within our region, but we received almost 6% of these dollars to assist those businesses. So really outperforming other regions in the state in terms of resources made available to employers for their training needs.
Matt, can I ask you?
Please.
You know, and I understand the awards because obviously I get the newsletters. I'm a little confused by the fact that, you know, we've spent quite a bit of money training these people, but yet I'm looking at numbers receiving training are 206 and only 9 of them were hired.
I'm sorry, I'm looking.
Look at
13.
Emmett County, 206 received training.
Okay,
And
so-
we have 9 new hires. Grand Traverse County, 167 were trained.
Right.
And we have 4 new hires.
Yes.
You know,
so-
I
oh,
know
I'm
that
sorry.
all of these industries are chomping at the bit trying to find employees. And I'm trying to figure out why, if we trained 167 people, why only 4 of them got jobs?
Excellent
Because
question.
every one of these industries are looking for people.
Yep. Great question, and probably should be more clear in this. So it also includes your existing workforce. So most of what you're seeing there is the existing workforce and providing training to those already on the shop floor, let's say. So it's a retention, it's an attraction and a retention measure. On page 16, we get into the business development side of things. One of the programs that we're known for is the SBDC program. All of you are familiar with that. Working with entrepreneurs at any stage within their business development spectrum, and whether they need help with accounting, HR, advertising, providing free business counseling hours to those who are seeking it. The Global Trade Alliance on page 17. This is a direct partnership with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and identifying outside markets for our local businesses. So whether that's in Canada or Portugal or China, where have you, just expanding the potential for business growth and development for our local companies. On page 18, the PTAC, the Procurement and Technical Assistance. This is another one where a factoid, I think, provides quite a staggering realization that $139 million of federal, state, and local contracts came through this program last year. So that's local businesses in our region receiving $139 million worth of contracts. We all know, for better or for worse, just to pick on the federal government a little bit, that they are the largest consumer of goods and services on this planet. And they buy everything from toilet paper to tanks. And we have companies in our region who were able to expand their book of business, expand their workforce, because they were able to connect to that and provide direct sales to the government. Just to go through the community development side of things, again, a demand-driven approach, working with that 190 units of government on what are the planning services that they demand. That could be anything from grant writing, that could be staffing planning commissions, that could be writing recreation plans. It's really being at the ready for our local units of government for what they may need over the course of the year. We all know and are very proud of our rural region, but as a result of that, oftentimes our local units of government don't necessarily have the staffing that they may need for one project or another. So we're able to come in as a à la carte option, if you will, to assist them in a way that provides cost savings and a high level of quality. On page 21, data and research. It's one of the things that we're probably most well known for within the region, that we provide companies, individuals, local units of government, a variety of different data for the purposes of planning, for the purposes of grant writing, what have you. Just a little bit on the community engagement, working with specific local units of government on how to better engage the public and seek their voice as it pertains to the decision-making of the elected officials. Transportation planning, this is another one where we come before you on an annual basis. We partner with the Michigan Department of Transportation and the local road commissions to provide a road rating to all the federal aid roads throughout the region. And it's really part of a longitudinal study, if you will, to see what roads are healthy and which ones are not with regards to pavement conditions, and to use that as a tool to better spend our road repair resources, whether those are local or state or federal. In summary, with regards to our legal entities, Networks Northwest and Northwest Michigan Works, our audits contained no findings of any kind. Our assets are far outstrip our liabilities. We're very financially healthy. Certainly, we have changed over the last couple of years for a variety of reasons, most notably, and I think appropriately so, that when unemployment is down, so is our revenue as an agency. So what you'll see in terms of a trend line over the last 5 years, we're probably about 40% less in terms of revenue than what we were. And that's in large part because of formula associated with unemployment rate. But we remain financially sound, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
What is our regional unemployment rate now, Matt? Do you know?
Well, right now, we're probably around 3.7 with the summer, but that's, you know, I used to be able to stand up here and speak to how this region is different than other regions or even other parts of the country, but it's low unemployment everywhere. As all of you know who are business owners on this board, workforce is a tough thing to come by right now. It's definitely affecting a lot of companies.
Any other questions for Matt? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You might want to go right into the next thing before he sits down. So you got pulled from the consent calendar.
Right, we're going into the item B6 that Cheryl had removed from the consent calendar.
Yeah. So I talked to our civil counsel about this because I had a question about how often the planning group needed to meet, because they're asking us for money, and a lot of that is to fund their meetings, and they're not required, according to him, to meet at all. They're statutorily never required to meet. My recollection is that when we decided to eliminate the planning department, one of the reasons for that was because we recognized that many of the large townships have their own planning departments, and so our role was really in a support position rather than in a leadership position. And I continue to believe that that's the appropriate place for the planning to take place. We really don't have the need to do any planning because the townships do the planning, the city does the planning, and I'm just concerned that, you know, we pay $9,600 for the balance of the year for meetings that aren't statutorily required, and then next year, you know, they'll want twice that because they'll be meeting the whole year, when again, they don't really need to meet. So I would move that we not support this action request.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking along the same lines. I guess my thought is leaning towards, you know, let the new administrator look and evaluate whether we really need that service, whether it can be fulfilled in the county, or do we need to go to that. To me, it seems kind of pricey for what I estimated we're getting, but I just soon wait till we get a new administrator and let them.
Was that motion seconded?
It was not yet seconded.
I'll second it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I should
That
have
was a
seconded.
comment.
I didn't know if you were seconding or not, yeah.
We're just running all Bob's rule, or Robert's rules are going crazy on us here, right, Chris?
Yes.
Well, in the packet is a letter from Bob Fudge, and he's here if he wants to speak.
Bob, would you?
Good evening, Commissioners. What can I tell you? We have been advised that the Planning Commission, if it exists, has to meet 4 times a year. We were told that by the same person that you said told you it didn't have to meet, so I don't know. What we're trying to resolve is if we're going to exist or not. I've got a mountain of time tied up chasing straws since January. So if you're going to proceed, this proposal that Nate did most of the work on is not going to cost you $9,600. That's a maximum not to exceed based on the hourly rates. And if we were to meet every month for the remainder of the year, you're looking at a couple hours' time. We've only got currently one outstanding item that we need to address. And my conversations with several of the supervisors have all advised me that they were very happy that when the county had a planning department, they had a common place to coordinate things and just keep everybody on the same page. That will not exist just with the planning commission. We had to have somebody with a planning background with more detail than the members of the committee have. And that's why, Networks Northwest fits that bill. And we've met with them, Nate and I met with them a couple of different times. They're willing to work with us, and I think it's a great opportunity. And if the board decides you don't want it to happen, that's the way it'll be.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
What is the county planning issue that you're currently working on?
The one that we have that's outstanding is the recreation plan. That's been submitted to us, and we need to take action on that, but that's the only outstanding item that I have knowledge of.
Nate?
So Gene and I met with Matt and Networks Northwest, I think in January initially, and they provided us a contract proposal.
Speak up, will you please?
My voice is a little hoarse, my apologies. We met in January, and they originally provided a proposal that was a little more advanced than this, so we requested to meet with Mr. Fudge and Mr. Nelson and talk about what they needed. And essentially they needed, if they were they felt that they were going to exist and there was going to be quarterly meetings required, that there needed to be somebody to take the minutes, somebody to post the meeting dates, somebody to prepare agendas, things of that nature, and assist in any master plan reviews that did come in. So we asked Matt and Networks Northwest to reconsider the proposal and propose what ended up being this proposal to provide services up to $9,600 if those items were necessary. That's why we're here today with this proposal.
Sonny?
Well, I think when we had this discussion back in January, and we all know that lots of things have changed here since January, one of the key components of any decision was we were going to hold a joint meeting with the townships to talk about where they saw county planning to be. And unfortunately, because of all the other situations, we have not done that. I think, you know, I'm inclined to believe that the county needs some planning presence. Exactly what that's going to be, I'm not sure. You know, we still actively have membership on the TC Talus, or whatever we're calling it that this week, a planning organization. We have the MPO studies will be coming out in 2020. If we in fact become a urban qualified unit, we're going to have a lot of other opportunities. We need to have someone that can help us coordinate that and facilitate that. That money will be paid to a planning organization. Federal money cannot be paid to the county for those types of things. It has to go through your county planning, a registered planning organization, as I understand it. So we're going to need to have a presence with an approved planning organization to do that. I think obviously Networks Northwest is our logical opportunity for that. This contract, as I read it, says not to exceed $9,600. You know, and I'm assuming that it's going to be billed to us at an hourly basis, and we will get that. You know, as far as the recreational plan, I believe we heard from the recreation director, that plan has been submitted, correct?
Correct, and to Networks Northwest as well, which is.
Right, but it also went to the DNR, right?
Yes.
See, so as far as holding up that plan, waiting for the planning commission to approve that, it's done because we've already submitted our recreation plan, so.
They were
you know,
required to submit it to us, and they did that.
Exactly.
They've also asked us for a
You know,
review.
and like I said, when I read this, I said not to exceed $9,600. I was, in my mind, I was comfortable with that through the end of this year, giving us the opportunity to get a new administrator in place, do the joint meeting with the townships, and see where we're going to get some sort of direction. And I believe that we will, by the end of the year, we should have a better feel with Networks Northwest's help, a better feel of where we're going to be in that MPO process. You know, we should have been there in 2010, but they changed the rules. The long and the short of it is the feds changed the rules, or we would have easily qualified in 2010. So, you know, I think we need a planning presence. I think we need that coordination piece, and I think Networks Northwest gives us that opportunity.
We did have plans to meet with the townships, but we decided to wait until you had your administrator in place, because that would be I believe, a key player in that program.
Is that rate at $60 an hour? Is that the rate that you're gonna be charging us, $60 an hour? Because I see,
And he's the one.
Matt.
okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Either there or that might be whatever.
'Cause
That's a lot for secretarial
I don't know if I
services.
just overlooked,
Yes, that's the rate.
okay.
That's a lot of money for secretarial services.
It's-
Most of what you have outlined here qualifies as secretarial services.
I
Putting
don't,
together agendas, emailing out packets, I mean,
Yeah.
that's not high-level skills.
well, what is high level is the degree of staffing to do that, and to do that in such a way where it applies to Michigan Enabling Law, Planning Enabling Act. You know, that is the rate of our planners. I don't believe that's an exorbitant rate. As was mentioned, the amount is a do not exceed. We were approached by the county and were asked to come up with what a core services plan would be, and to also to include in that what was discussed earlier, that we could convene the townships and the county on a discussion about what would the potential role of county planning be now and into the future. So that's what we provided a response to, and that's what's in front of you.
Would that be at a $60 an hour rate too, being a
Yes,
convener?
yeah,
Okay.
that's everything that was mentioned.
Okay, well, I will continue to say I support my motion. I don't think right now there's been any evidence offered that we need a planning system right now. We're 6 months out probably from needing planning assistance. When we let our planner go, we were at that time, I believe, encouraged by Gene Dorenzi to look at hiring planning services on an as-needed case-by-case basis, because there hadn't been much need for them. Right now, the only project that we supposedly need it for has already been submitted. So Why should we enter into an agreement to pay somebody up to $9,600 when there's no need? I mean, I just, it doesn't make logical sense to me. Come to me when you have something that needs a planning person, and I can then look at it and see if we want to approve paying for it.
You do have the county master plan that's up this year for its 5-year review, and need a planning commission for that.
We saw this as being a proactive attempt to do just that, Commissioner. Mr. McCauley's services would be as needed only. Mr. Fudge and the Planning Commission expressed some concerns about logistics, but essentially we don't have a direction that we can go if something does come up. We have to come back to the board at that point and ask for approval. So we can do that, certainly. We thought this was a proactive attempt to do that.
Tom?
Yeah, I don't want to abandon the Planning Commission, and obviously the reason for this is to have somebody in the planning field, you know, be able to oversee the Planning Commission. There will be opportunities for reasons to have meetings, and I wouldn't want to stop so that we have to start it all over again in the future. We also lack our new hire for the administrator for the county, and that person should be able to have some say too. So I wouldn't want to vote this down, because I'd be afraid that we would be ending the Planning Commission at the same time. I want to continue with the Planning Commission, and I think Mr. Fudge's letter that's part of the packet is, he explains that he supports it, and then he's speaking for the Planning Commission. They support it. John Nelson was in on that decision as well. So I don't support the motion to not accept this.
So can we just
Sure.
clarify what are the meetings going to be? I mean, we've just been told that maybe 2 more this year.
I can't tell you the number of meetings because I don't know what's coming up.
Well,
We've
but
had-
you
We
know
have
what's-
we have no contact person for anybody to go to. Everybody has been talking to Nate that's got anything. But we're just not organized. We may
Well, you
be
said
there
there's
in
a
name,
master
but we don't
plan.
really
You
exist.
said there's a master plan. You have to do that review, right?
Yes, the county master plan is up this year.
Okay, so the county master plan, that has to be reviewed before the end of the calendar year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what else?
I didn't do my homework. I figured that we had a 50-50 chance tonight. And I've got, like I said, a lot of time invested in this, and if you're gonna tell us to go away, that's fine.
Well, what have
We
you
just
been
need some
doing up to-
guidance.
What have you been doing up till now? From January till now, what have you been doing?
I've been trying to get this thing organized so we could have a planning commission. We've had no meetings because you guys basically did away with us, so we couldn't have any meetings.
If I may, one of the items is exactly what was mentioned before, that especially, and this is not unusual across the state of Michigan or region, that if you're a county and the majority of the local units of government within that county are self-sufficient as it relates to their planning, then it is oftentimes a role of convening those units of government, the township and the county, and have a discussion. What is the role, if any, of county planning? So that's also part of that proposal in front of you, is that convening of the townships, the villages, and the city and the county to discuss and have an open conversation about what is the role or not the role of county planning moving forward. That's one. Another, as it relates to a role of county planning, is that by law, when a master plan or a rec plan is completed by a unit of government, that they provide it to neighboring units of government and the county and the regional planning agency for review and comment. So oftentimes, a role of a county planning commission is sometimes to play connector, if you will, between that multitude of planning that is going on within your county through local decision making, and to say, okay, just as an example, East Bay Township, you're saying you're doing this. Did you know that in Kingsley they're doing something very similar? That type of thing. So acting as a conduit for communication between the units of government within the county is a potential role for counties.
Thank you. Tom?
There's another thing that somebody from the planning could be part of. There's a group forming to study the uses for the lower Boardman River. That's from Boardman Lake down to the mouth of the river. And it would probably be appropriate for somebody from planning on the county to be involved in that. So.
Yeah, again, it's really up to the county, what role that they want to play, what you want to play as it relates to a variety of these things that are occurring in the community. Commissioner Wheelock previously mentioned TTCI and MPO, that it is it's commonplace, if not standard, that the county planner or planning commission chair holds a seat on that board, and that again acts as a conduit for communication, if nothing else. So this board and or the planning commission knows what's going on with regards to some of these activities within the community. I don't want to stand here and pretend as if it is a requirement or anything like that. Truly, that's not my intent. But historically, this county has enjoyed a lead role in the region as it relates to being engaged in their units of government, individual decision-making and planning. And I think this provides at a core level that same function moving forward. Again, if nothing else, just a conduit of communication between what's going on in the community with regards to all these different planning activities and the board itself, meaning you.
Cheryl?
I know that there are other entities in the community that provide convening services, and I'm not sure that they charge $60 an hour to do that. So I guess I would just throw it out there that if we're going to be looking at hiring someone like Networks Northwest to do work for us, perhaps we have an obligation to put out bids for that work. You know, convening is something that there are, you know, I know the college does convening. There may be others that would be willing to help us convene the townships for purposes of having a conversation and not charge us $60 an hour to do it. I mean, that can add up in a real hurry. I'm just concerned that we made a decision as a board to eliminate our planning department. It was a financial decision as much as anything, but it was also based on, you know, the advice of people in the organization who said, you know, we're really not using those services. I'm concerned that it's a slippery slope that we go out and we start hiring somebody at the rate of $60 an hour. And by the way, I think it's the person that we got rid of who's going to be providing those services. I'm speculating, but
No,
he doesn't
no,
work for
ma'am.
you anymore?
No, he does work for us, but that's not the staff person who would be.
Okay.
If I could just make a suggestion, I mean, maybe the best thing to do right now is just to table this. Maybe direct administration to come back and explore what Cheryl just brought up. Are there other options? Are there other entities, organizations out there that could provide a similar service at a discount?
I may add to that. I think it's important that the board maybe have a study session to determine what they actually want from planning and if the planning commission is actually needed. And if the board can make a decision on that, then this discussion would not be necessary.
I agree.
That's Bob.
I mean, if we're gonna do a study session, I would invite all the local units too, to say, what do you expect from the county, what do you want from the county? We may find that it might be a full-time position again, you know, or half-time where you could have somebody do some other duties, so.
Well, I think that's the piece that we missed. We had the you know, when we had this discussion in January, I think we truly were committed at that point to do the joint meeting with the townships, and we simply have not been able to do that because of circumstances that are not necessarily within our control. But I think, you know, the question becomes is, do we need something in an interim basis? This is an interim basis. You know, if we don't feel we need anything in an interim basis, you know, maybe we table this agreement and see if we have anything. You know, hopefully within a short period of time, we'll have a new administrator. That administrator may have a different opinion about where the county should be in regard to planning within this region.
I would withdraw my motion in support of tabling this with the administration coming back with some other ideas.
Is that the easiest way, Chris, is to withdraw the motion or
No,
just
I
make a
mean,
motion to
somebody
table?
could just make a motion to table, and that just supersedes.
Move to table.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then
Got that, Bonnie?
they'll bring it back to
Opposed?
study session, correct?
If we can get participation from the townships, I think it would make
That'd
sense.
be great.
I think just holding a study session within ourselves is going to be pretty much non-productive. We need to hear from the townships what they need.
And also, I want to make it clear that we're not trying to say you're not doing a good job at all. I think we just need more information as to what we really need to have, so. Okay.
So do I
So
need to
that-
move anything with
You're-
regard to this?
Just
or
need
is
to
it
vote
taken
on it
care
now.
of?
You're done.
Okay, thank you.
Good call.
That brings us to departmental
Chairman,
items.
you need to
Health
vote on it.
Department. Oh,
You need to vote on the motion to table.
We-
the-
Motion to
we
table.
did.
I thought we did.
Oh,
Yep.
well, where was I?
We don't want,
She was looking into Robert's rule book, probably.
Well, there was some weird things going on.
Yes, there are.
No. Said he's a lot taller
evening,
than I am.
Wendy.
The microphone was way up here. Good evening, Wendy Hirschenberger, Health Officer. I'm here tonight for your review and hopefully approval of our plan of organization. This is a requirement for Health Department accreditation, which is done by various state agencies every 3 years. I know it's a lengthy document, but I can assure you everything in it is required by the state. There's a complete checklist. So it basically lays out our legal responsibilities, our authority, the laws that govern us, how we're organized as a department, our mission, vision, values, all of our strategic planning, priority setting, how we deliver services, where we deliver them, and when, how we report and monitor our quality, the official approval of myself and our medical director. It's required by statute and then that happened when we were both hired. And then the attachments are some of the things that are referenced in the manual. So it talks about employee safety and all the different things. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the plan of operations for the Grand Traverse County Health Department as provided.
Plan of organization. Sorry to correct you.
I'm sorry?
It's the plan of organization.
It says plan of operation on my
yeah,
change.
organization.
Organization.
Okay, plan of
Andy,
organization.
you support?
I support, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Oh, it's on the agenda that way.
I didn't make the
I
agenda.
didn't make the agenda. Thank
But
you.
your resolution does say organization.
Yeah, well, I was taking off from what I was reading.
That brings us to the
Greg's gonna
Mobile
talk about mobile
surveillance
surveillance.
I'm
system.
gonna make the motion that we approve.
Support.
Discussion?
Well,
Yep.
I'm just curious as to, I guess, why would we need this versus the sheriff's department not having something like this? Or is it more of emergency management function? That's just my only really major question, I guess. So.
Greg Bird, Emergency Management Coordinator. Yes, all the above. This was a project that we discussed at our local emergency planning committee, and this asset that will be housed through emergency management will be available to all county law enforcement as they need it. But on top of that, it's going to be used for events and us to be able to monitor. So it's all the above housed under the auspice of emergency.
If we approve it, you can have it in time for the Cherry Festival? Because I could see something like that.
When this started in 2014, I hoped to have it that year for
Oh,
Cherry
okay.
Festival. So I don't think so, but we're excited to have this asset. And actually, one will be later in the fall because they're two separate grant years. But we're excited to get one. We had no idea we were going to get awarded two. So we're very happy to have this and it's a capability that we currently don't have anywhere here. So
Cheryl?
Can you kind of give me like a nutshell version of what the privacy issues are that you as an operator of this piece of surveillance equipment have to comply with, or are there none?
Under terrorism and homeland security prevention, there really aren't any.
I was afraid that was going to be your answer.
I mean, but there has to be, for law enforcement uses, there has to be probable cause, there has to be open investigation. For our uses, it's for events and crowd, search and rescue lost children. So we're not going to be deploying this in places where I don't think we're going to be doing an invasion of privacy of it.
Okay, so you're talking about, you know, in crowds. If you're surveying a very large crowd, there's a very real possibility that you could see criminal activity. Are you authorized under the Terrorism Act to share that information with law enforcement?
Yeah.
It's an open field, and it's not subject
Sure,
to
it's
somebody's
it's the open
private property,
space,
sure.
and there's, you know, 30,000 people down there for a concert or something.
Sure.
And most of our event deployments, law enforcement is there with us in a unified command capacity. So like Cherry Fest, there's fire, police, EMS, and emergency management sitting within a mobile command post, which will be viewable for these surveillance units when we get them.
How many of these do you currently have, like at stoplights right now? None?
None.
Not like this, but are there any at stoplights?
Not that public safety has any access to, and not that we're aware of. I think there's 2 that MDOT has in the county. One is out on 72, and one is 31, I believe, but.
And those are really for capturing like license plates, kind of a thing when cars go by?
Those are traffic flow
Yeah,
cameras.
none that I'm aware of, and that's not the purpose of this unit either.
What is the purpose?
Purpose is for preventing criminal activity. If we get lost children, which we have a lot of them during our big events, having an elevated position to surveil is always better than being eye level with them. Prevent any criminal activity, or in the case of law enforcement, if it falls under one of their surveillance cases, to be able to use if it's a benefit to their case.
But it's funded through Homeland Security.
100%.
Thank you.
Tom?
Will there be a time before Cherry Festival where you come back to the commission to talk about what your plans are during the event?
I've never been asked to do that before. I certainly can, based upon availability. But a lot of times our public safety deployment and action plan, it's approved at the public safety level, and it's kind of kept there. However, it is viewable by any of you that would like to see some of it, or you're more than welcome to come visit the Unified Command Post if you'd like to set up an appointment.
Yeah, one of my concerns is that if the cluster there in the open space is the Unified Command Post, is that? Okay.
We've moved it this year in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, so we're happy with our upgrade.
Because I think it was dangerous to have it there where there are so many people in a concentrated area.
Part of the problem was we didn't have any way of being connected and being able to surveil that, so we had to put it there to be close to the action. Now in the interim, we have Michigan State Police helping us with some cameras this year for that event, but we're also relocating because we don't like to be at ground zero either.
It sounds like this is going to be an improvement, because I was concerned about the way it had been the last couple of years.
Since I've been here, every year after every event, we have an after-action process, and we come up with recommendations for improvement. And as much as we can, as we go on, we always try and improve the plan from year to year and do better things. Not necessarily that we did anything wrong, but we always try and improve it. How can we make it better, and how can we make the events safer for the citizens and visitors? And that's always our goal. So like with the Bayshore Marathon, the first thing we did was pull out last year's after-action report recommendations from all the public safety partners, and we tried to put those recommendations for improvement into play, which we did. And we had a very successful event this year. Not a single runner was transported to the hospital this year. And that says something for where we pre-positioned resources and respond. Same thing with Cherry Fest. We had 3 pages of recommendations. Some are out of our control, some are with outside public safety agencies, and we've tried to make that even a better plan than what we've ever did. And part of that was relocating the Unified Command Post. And we had to ask a third-party agency to host us in a room and provide security, and that's happened. So that's part of the ongoing process for every event that we plan for.
I'm glad to hear that.
I I think the relocation of the unified command post is going to work well. Whether or not, in fact, trying to move the Cherry Festival operations there, headquarters there, is not going to work. You know, from you know, I know that was the plan early in the discussion, was the fact that you were going to move operations there too, and there's just no way that Cherry Festival operations can run back and forth across the Grandview Parkway for all the issues that they have to deal with. It's
We
not
have
gonna work.
we have a solution to that, and I'm quite satisfied that that'll work as far as radio and phone communications for redundant, being able to stay in touch with
I
them.
know that, you know, as of a week and a half ago, the information I was getting was they were going to move operations across the road too, and I said, there's just no way.
We've solved that problem with the communication
That'll
bridge.
eat everybody's day up.
Yeah.
We've got a motion with support. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Ron took a
Bring-
vote this time.
Brings us to the Road Commission.
This is a requirement of issuing any bonds through the county that we report and disclose information to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Rather lengthy resolution, but we need the board to approve the attached resolution
So
to
moved.
Second.
make sure that we do that.
Motion
Move
with
second.
support.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And we got very good rates on these bonds too, right?
Yes, we did. 2.15% true interest cost.
Brings us to Family Court and a vehicle purchase.
If I could, I'll present this, and if there are any questions, but just to summarize, the Family Court received a 2% grant from the Grand Traverse Band to purchase a vehicle that would be used for the juvenile transports that they do. We did look at, Chris Randall is here, we did look at My Deal pricing to not have to go through a formal bid, because we're relying on the state's process to do that. We're asking for the approval to purchase a 2019 Chevrolet Impala. It does cost a little bit more than the grant amount, but there are funds within the court's budget to cover the difference, and we have to put a cage in the vehicle as well. So
moved.
asking for your approval to make that purchase.
Support.
Motion with support.
Do we happen to have any of the cages left from the Impalas that we had, Nate, that we may be able to use for that vehicle?
I will ask Sergeant Raska that we have quite a few cages.
Because I know at one time we had a pile of them because we changed vehicles on a number of occasions. You know, and I'm thinking that this cage probably doesn't have to be quite as secured as, you know, the ones that the sheriff's has, but, you know, most of the time, you know, at least in theory, but I know we did have a large number of cages that may be able to be either refurbished or will actually fit.
Or double them up.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I happen to know a company that just built 3 of them in Benson County, so.
Brings us to administration and the Blaine property proceeds.
So I prepared a memo for the board where I outlined that the county has received a little over $370,000 proceeds from the parcel on US 31 owned by the Lane Bank Authority, sold to Blaine's Farm and Fleet. So that's all good news. The bigger question that I present to the board is, so what do you do with that? And you do have some guidance, and that's the resolution that I included with the memo. That resolution was adopted about 2 years ago and says that it should go to pay the pension debt. But when I read it, and when I read it with Nate and Dean, it wasn't exactly 100% clear to us that it would apply to land bank owned property, where the land bank is saying it's okay for the county to take the proceeds. And also, the board should have the ability to not just use it for the pension obligation, but the OPEB liability as well. And that was not addressed in the older motion. So I thought it was a good idea to have the board revisit this issue, talk about this issue, and I gave for your consideration a proposed change to that resolution.
I thought you did an excellent job, and I would so move.
Support?
Discussion. Tom?
One thought I had was that we would look at the portion of being funded or underfunded on MERS and the OPEB, and then proportionately, split the money between the two, so that most of it would go towards MERS, but some would go towards OPEB.
I like that too, Tom, that's a good idea.
No. That way we're tending to both of them, but mostly to MERS. So it's whatever that ratio is, based on what we were funded or underfunded.
So what we could do is, we could do that analysis, bring this back to the board with a suggested resolution where that proceeds would be split between MERS and the OPEB.
Well, my opinion, for what it's worth, is that we made a commitment to that any property sales, that money would be paid to the pension debt. I personally would rather make this payment to the pension debt, and then if we're able to identify any additional funding that we can use to contribute to MERS, then we can prorate it. But, I think we went on record repeatedly saying that any county property that was sold would be used to pay down the pension debt. And I personally would rather see us do that, pay the pension debt down. If we can identify additional funds in this budget or next year's budget or wherever, prorate that portion or use other identified funds to pay down the OPEB. We already found out that the OPEB is less than half of what we had anticipated that it was. So I guess I would really like to stick to our original commitment to pay the $370,000 to the pension debt. As you know, I made that was the statements that I made to the Land Bank Authority. I did, on behalf of you and the Land Bank Authority, I did sign those closing documents. And I believe that is the commitment that we made, was to use any proceeds from property sales for the pension debt. I would like to see us use it for the pension debt, and then we will identify additional funding and prorate that to take care of the OPEB.
Dan?
I'd like to, when we discuss about how to spend this money, I'd like to do a little homework and talk to the board about, I know it's not a popular idea, but I'm hoping I can convince you to at least fund some in the irrevocable pension trust. I think we need to discuss that. That was part of the original plan, and I think we should plan for bad times. They're going to come, and it would be nice to have some money set aside to help us through those times. So I'd like to, if the board will indulge me when we discuss this, I'll have done a little more homework to talk to you about it.
Tom?
Yeah, the future is there's more property there that's also listed and for sale that's in the vicinity, neighbors this property that we did sell. So there will be more proceeds coming in, hopefully, as long as the real estate transactions happen. And since we did reevaluate OPEB, whatever amount that it would be, as far as a ratio to what the MERS debt is, it would not be a lot of money. Most of the money would definitely go towards MERS. But it would be symbolic that we're trying to do something about OPEB. And I think spending money on MERS first, OPEB second, and then the irrevocable trust third is sort of a way to look at it. Again, most of the money should go towards MERS because that's where our biggest problem is. So.
Cheryl?
I think we have a motion, and the motion is that we spend the proceeds from this particular sale to pay down our MERS debt. That was my motion.
Today? I mean, just now? I thought your motion was just to do this, this change.
Yeah,
in the
that
wording.
was my take as well, just to amend
Okay.
the resolution,
And then
giving.
come back to us.
Then come back.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess that was my motion.
And that's what when I supported, I guess I
There you
thought that's
go.
what that
I
was
think
for.
that was my motion.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I think so, too.
Motion with support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so the motion was, what I understood was just to amend this resolution
And to instruct the administration to come back to us with a recommendation.
with some,
on what to do with
recommendation
it.
on how to
Yep.
spend the money. Yep,
Yep.
okay.
Good.
Also, if you can include, I don't know if you have the numbers yet, probably not to the end of June, if we're at that 60% threshold yet. Because that would play into it too. If we're very close, that'll get the state off a little even though I think we got a good plan. If we're close to 60 and that'll help get us there, I think it would.
Is that our next meeting that we're getting that information?
We hope so, but it's sometime in June.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I was thinking
Well,
towards the
this
end
is
of the month.
June, so.
Right?
And also in reference to Tom's comment, Phase 2 of this property sale is a $300,000 sale of property. And of that $300,000, 100% of the liability to Blair Township has been paid off with this portion. So there will be some realtor fees and closing costs that'll come out of that $300,000, but everything else will come to the county. So it's a sizable piece. The second phase of that, if you may remember, I think I mentioned last month, is contingent on a brownfield plan that will allow for the roadway to be extended from behind Werfel Park by the water tower through to Rennie School Road. The preliminary drawings have been done, and I believe the Brownfield Authority has, at least weighed in on it and seems to be supportive of that plan, but it's gonna take a little bit to get through that.
Seen nothing at Brownfield yet.
Oh, I was under
It's
the
coming.
understanding last
It's
week
coming.
that they had seen it. Okay. But anyway, it sounds like the developer is very interested in moving forward with that development. The only contingent piece was he wants a brownfield plan. The brownfield plan actually that you're going to see, Ron, if you haven't seen it yet, will also include some of the infrastructure improvements to Rennie School Road that will help facilitate the the Blaine Farm and Fleet development. Those costs will also be recoverable.
The light and the turn lane?
Basically, the light and the turn lane.
All right, takes us to administration update.
In your packet is an update on the daycare center that was proposed as an overview by the city and the county in 2017. Joe Barry did reach out to Green Construction for an estimate as to what it would cost to renovate the lower level of the governmental center to accommodate a daycare. And that estimate came in at about $77,000. We have met several times with the city about this topic, and I think that we need to continue to meet about this topic. There are some definite differences of opinion as to how the daycare would be managed and run, and who would share the cost of that daycare. So I would recommend that we continue that effort to try to whittle out those issues, because that could impact us adversely financially in the end.
Go ahead.
Can I, there are daycare providers that are putting up facilities
Yes.
in the area.
Yes.
Why don't, and I can find out who they are as well, but why don't we see if they may be interested in doing the renovation and leasing that space so that we've got somebody with skin in the game,
Yeah.
and not somebody that'll walk away from a improvement that we've made, so.
Well, and that was gonna be because one of the things I don't like is the fact that they're gonna get it for free to operate it, because that is, you're exactly right, that's a hindrance, in my opinion, to anybody else that's trying to get into that. I would, and it's a big sticking point for me where I probably wouldn't support it, but if we could get somebody to come in and say, look, we'll do the renovations, you give us a lease of X amount of time, then, to me, it's a different ballgame. So just something to think about, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Well, and frankly, I sort of, I think, proposed this a while ago. At least I was, I think, one of the people to first come up with this as a use for that space. And I was suggesting that we pattern it after Central Methodist Church, which had the daycare center in the basement of the church for 35 years. They had a private company that ran it, and they had to make repairs, and they had to furnish it, and they had to do all kinds of stuff, and they paid rent to the church. So, I mean, it was, now I get this, and it's like, oh, we're gonna run it, and it's just gonna be for employees, and it's like, that wasn't what I was thinking at all.
That was my understanding, is that the original proposal that was in 2017, I believe, I think the original intent has gone left of plumb.
Sounds like it.
And I really want to refocus on the concept of who's going to be in charge of the
Well,
daycare.
that's because the city, not to besmirch the city, but the city said they were gonna take the lead, and the city has kind of turned this into something different.
Dan?
Just throwing this out, I worry about parking. The parking is tough, and there's gonna be moms and dads and kids and cars coming and going.
The kids aren't driving.
Okay, but there's gonna be pedestrian auto conflict with those little kids
Drop-off pick.
there. And, I'm just kidding. I worry about that, is that really a good space on this governmental property? We do business here. And, you know, I like little kids, but I don't know if it's really a good use of that space for those little people.
So those opinions are being heard right now as well, but this overview is ahead of my time, and I think the original intent has gone left of plumb, and all of these topics have been brought up, and these points have been brought up. I think it's crucial to go back to the original group and get back to the core concept of the idea. There are many people who don't think this is a good idea, and there are some people who do think it's a good idea, but I think the original plan was to get that first quote, or first estimate of what it's going to actually cost to make it happen. The next question should be, is this an appropriate use?
I want to make it clear, I like little kids. I've got a big pediatric part of my practice. I see a lot of little kids all the time. So
I don't think anybody would mind going down and visiting.
Another advertising. You know, I think, you know, and obviously what I've read recently and heard recently is significantly different than what my memory was. You know, I remember we talked about the potential of possibly using the lower level as a daycare center when we were talking about the fact that it was underused space in this building, and we were trying to come up with ideas of how we could better utilize that space. I personally never remember having a discussion about it being a daycare available for county or city employees at no charge. Under no circumstances do I ever remember having that discussion. And I would never support that, you know.
This isn't no charge.
No, that's in there.
But the whole ticker discussion the last few days has been about the fact that it was going to be free to, you know, county and city employees, and that was never a discussion, at least in my mind. I think the biggest piece about it was we were looking at possible opportunities to better utilize that space.
Right.
A daycare center was brought up as one of those possibilities. We talked about leasing it out for office space. We talked about a lot of different things. And one of the things that always came up is, okay, but if we take away that space, where do we have available for break rooms for employees and those kind of things? And I don't know that we've answered those questions yet either. So, you know, there's a lot of questions that go into any reutilization of that lower level property. You know, the daycare thing became real popular, and obviously it's taken off in the last couple of weeks as far as the media is concerned. But the bottom line here is we were simply looking at possible ways to better utilize that space, and this was one of the options. I don't think, at least from my point, I've never made the decision that that's the best option.
It may come to a point where we want to put out a request for proposals to the private industry to how would you like to use this vacant space. I know there are other opinions about how to use it. We've heard quite a few opinions. And some make a lot of sense, and I'm encouraged by that. So I think we need to go through this process. We need to sit back down with the city with the estimate at hand, and the city knows what it's going to cost approximately to do this, and have a discussion about, is this the best option at this point?
Yeah, and it does say in here, Sonny, because that's why I asked about they said to try to keep the cost lower, they were gonna just basically give it to the person for free.
It does appear through the objective summary and the proposal that the daycare is subsidized in some way, shape, or form, and I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, that would be subsidized in my mind, though, if you gave it to them free to operate here, you know, but, because it'd be a really great advantage to somebody, but.
Yes.
I mean, I think, you know, it'd be a wonderful thing to have on-site daycare for any company, you know, but if it's right, you know, you can't obviously it's gotta be, where it's cost efficient and everything else, so.
Well, if we were to spend $77,000 to fix it, we should get some way to pay that back through the person that's running it. So-
Well, and then the other side of it goes, what's the, if you do hire a company to come in, what's the county's liability if something happens down there, even though it's, somebody else is running it since it's on county facility?
Then the other thing is, what if that daycare company doesn't do a good job? Now we're stuck with it. And we say to our employees, no, we
We're
can't
way
do it
down the
anymore.
road.
I think all of that's way down the road. I think the key piece of this discussion is that the best utilization of that underutilized space?
I agree.
And we aren't there yet.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say is that for the employees, we're getting new vending machines. We've reported to you before, we wanted to get one vendor for all the buildings that have healthy choices. That's happening. It's gonna happen at the end of the month. The vending machines are gonna be pulled out, they're gonna be relocated. So maybe it's a good time to think about not just the break room space, but all the space down there.
Yeah.
So no more candy bars?
There will be candy bars, just in a
thank
different
God.
spot, farther away. You have to walk.
So you gotta walk to get to them, so you
You
can
walk down the street, burn off the calories on your way back.
Now, where will Dean get his Cheetos?
I'll find his own.
Bring in.
Tom?
What's an example of another proposed use for it besides daycare?
Well, off the top of my head, I've heard discussions about a deli, a coffee shop, something like that. We have a large area of residents and people who are traversing through here on bike, on foot, or pedal and foot, and I think there are other options out there that people have interest in. So I think that if we get to that point, we should do an RFP for just general interest in that facility, and you may be surprised what you see. Startup tech units,
Yep.
businesses, things like
I say
that.
that.
Yeah.
Well,
Other
the other part to remember, though, is what Dan really alluded to, is either you design it for foot traffic or bike traffic or existing employees, because parking, and if you add anything that someone else is coming here just for that, then you do have a little mess on your hands, because there's not much extra parking out there, if any.
That is correct.
So,
One topic, just for your edification, through the course of discussion on this topic, I heard that the Pavilions has daycare, and they do. I reached out to the Pavilions and asked if the county employees could utilize that daycare, and that daycare is for Pavilion use only. It's just, there was questions asked about it, I thought I should bring it up.
Is it full?
It is not full.
but it might be a model to look at,
Right.
how they're operating too.
Sure.
So.
County taxes go toward that daycare facility, about 20 grand a year, right?
You mean pavilions?
Pavilions, yeah.
I don't know the amount, Commissioner, but I would agree with you.
You'd think there'd be some collaboration
County
there.
money
Yeah,
goes
would.
to the
Yeah.
pavilions, whether or not any portion of that is earmarked toward the operation of the multi-generational daycare, I don't know.
I'm just wondering, maybe some collaboration could be looked into there.
Keystone Building.
Yeah, Mr. Berry has proposed an estimate that is relatively inexpensive to bring the Keystone facility up to par to house animal control. There's been a lot of discussion about how, when, and if that service needs to move to Keystone, but just for your information, it's going to be fairly inexpensive to do so. Roughly $15,000 for the overhaul, make that housable for animal control. The Commission on Aging does have some services there that I think, I saw Cindy earlier, I thought, but she and I have spoken, and those services can be moved relatively easily, and/or something could occur on that site to facilitate those services. So if this board wants to move animal control to that facility, we need that guidance, and it'll be relatively inexpensive to do so.
I have a
Thank you.
comment.
Cheryl?
So I'm on the Commission on Aging Advisory Committee, and we did meet earlier in the week, and we were talking about, COA has a bunch of old mowers and equipment and stuff that they've shoved into the animal control shelter. They're using it sort of as extra storage space. That's what they've got in there. And so we were talking as a committee about what COA can do to eliminate that. Joe Berry's cataloging that stuff, and some of it's gonna be scrapped, some of it's gonna be sold, some of it can be put, in a storage unit or whatever. So I would like to ask this board to authorize the administration to move forward with the renovation of the animal control building. The agreement that we just entered into with Cherryland Humane Society will now allow us to, will require us to be the point of contact when there is an animal that's picked up. I think one of the nice things about the animal control shelter on Keystone is that we may find that animals end up there rather than at the Humane Society, which is going to ultimately save us some dollars, because we do pay for animal control services for them, housing and all of that. So if you get an animal and it's returned within, you know, the day, then you're not paying animal control to, I mean, Humane Society to house that animal, et cetera. So it would be a pretty inexpensive fix to get us back up to speed over there.
Dan?
I just want to ask you that, there seems like there's some redundancy. We've got the, this building we can renovate and keep animals in that, and then we've got Humane Society. And so if we put animals in this building, we'll have to hire extra staff?
Yeah, no.
Have more hours?
No.
Why
No,
not?
because we have an arrangement with the Humane Society that they're gonna house overnight animals. This would just be a place to have animals during working hours. And right now, every animal that's picked up goes over to Humane Society. And then we pay for a pickup charge, and there's fees to the Humane Society. I mean, I
You
just
think-
had a friend that had a dog that got away, and it cost them about $300 to bail their dog out, and they did it the same day.
Yeah.
Whereas if it would have been animal control could have it there, and maybe they wouldn't have to write that $300 ticket.
You think it would be cheaper?
Oh, I think it definitely would. For the person who, you know,
Yeah.
their pet, like your dog escapes, and you go to get your pet out of hock. But more than that, it gives animal control a physical location. Like right now, they're a little office in the Lafreniere building,
Yeah.
okay? And if they're in that Keystone spot, it gives them a site where they can, one of the things we talked about was, Nate and I were talking about the fact that we don't want to put $15,000 into internet access for this building. Instead, there's something called
Air cards or hotspots.
air cards, hotspots. But if they had their own space, we know, you and I know from our work on the committee, him too, that there's a very active group out there that would like to fundraise if they thought that there was a spot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I get it, yeah, just asking.
So for which, by the way, the $15,000, if I'm not mistaken, Dean, is in their budget, am I correct?
The only other thing we would have to consider is the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation of the holding cell, so to speak, for the animals. Somebody will have to come in and feed and water those animals on an intermittent basis, but from what I understand is the animal control has a plan for that, and they have a schedule that they feel can accommodate that type of servicing.
And those animals also can go to the Humane Society. I mean, we still have an agreement with them to house animals.
Yes.
Sonny?
Well, you know, and I guess probably we should have had a second for the motion somewhere along the way before the discussion, but, so I will second the motion just because we should have had that. You know, I was concerned about the $15,000 to $25,000 to provide internet access there. You know, that's a significant amount of money. But I also remember a lot of issues that we had when we did kennel animals at that facility. You know, so we need to just kind of think about that a little bit as we talk about our staffing plan. You know, we had a large amount of time and a large number of complaints when we did kennel animals at that facility, and then animal control officers were not there. People came to pick up their dog. It wasn't this, you know, there wasn't anyone there. That became a real unpopular situation too. So, you know, if we are in fact going to house animals there, we need to make sure that someone is there as part of the staffing plan. Now, that's not to say that we can't say, all right, at 5 o'clock Friday evening, all of the animals that are housed here are going to be moved up to the Humane Society. Or 5 o'clock every evening. I don't, you know, or 7 o'clock every evening, whatever the case can be. I just know that we need to, if we're going to facilitate kenneling animals at that facility, we need to make sure our staffing plan accommodates that. Because
Does
otherwise
Humane
it'll get-
Society, are they open 24/7? You can go to the Humane Society at 3 o'clock in the morning, get your dog?
No.
Okay, well then why would we have to?
Well, I'm just saying that was a huge reason we stopped kenneling animals at that facility, was unpopular decisions when people came to get their animals that we
Gotcha.
were not available.
Okay, good point.
And I can,
That's why we have
sometimes
the
we
Humane
can
Society.
talk
We'll
about
let
some,
them-
we can talk about some other
They'll take that.
specifics, but that was a real unpopular decision at the time, was that we had animals that were locked up and there was no one available when the person came to get their animal.
The other side of this is, since, I mean, all this became about the animals, to me, it'd be a little traumatic to throw them into one cage here at Animal Control and then have to move them to the Humane Society. You know, for me, I'd rather just say, either you're gonna put them here or here and just leave them, you know, and reduce that stress on them.
But, we also know that in the past, we use prisoners to clean stalls or sell the kennel areas and those kind of things, and then that became unpopular, and then next thing we know, the kennels weren't being cleaned adequately, and then that was an unpopular situation also, so. There's more to it than just facilitating the physical structure which allows it, and we need to make sure that we've accounted for those also.
Thank you.
There's a motion.
So, motion and a second?
Sunny
Sunny,
seconded.
second, yep.
So let's refresh. The motion is to spend the
The money, the
rehab the
motion is to
facility.
rehab the facility from their budget.
But then,
Yes.
we're also making the decision to house animals there.
No.
No, we're not. That's up to the organization. I'm not telling them how to run their
Why-
organization. None of us are.
I'm not being contrary, but why would we fix up that facility? We're not gonna commit to use it.
Oh, no, we'll use it. It'll be where Animal Control will now do their business. I mean, we have 3 officers. They'll work
Well-
out of there. They'll have their vehicles there. They'll have the ability to, accept.
So we may not use it to hold animals.
We may or may not house animals there, but
Okay.
that will be the headquarters for
Okay,
animal control.
okay, I agree with that.
In my mind, it just brings them closer.
Yeah.
If we're gonna have it now where the people come to them to pay and then to say, yeah, you can release the animal, they're
agree.
closer and it's kind of a,
right, 'cause
at
they're-
least you're in the same area. It's not that
I get it.
Frainier's that far, but it's a little closer.
May I add? I spoke with Heidi Yates of the Humane Society, and the memo of understanding solved a lot of their issues that they're experiencing with dog owners and cat owners, but eventually, there is going to be a need to no longer house animal control animals at the Humane Society. The MOU removed the exigency to make that happen, but they still want to exit the contract eventually of housing animals. So at some point in time, we are going to need a place to house animals, or somehow create the contract with them to do so.
How much do we give them a year to do this? Rough? All right. And it doesn't have to be exact, I mean, just rough ballpark.
Between 20 and 30,000, I think.
23,000,
That's not bad for
less than
service.
25,000 a year.
Plus, they collect the,
They collect
fines,
them-
they collect the fees when-
They collect the
when-
fees from the animal owner who comes to pick up their animal. We get,
Which
we
is
get
the
a-
$300.
We get a portion of that, Cindy?
27,144 is what,
The annual cost, 27,000.
okay. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
pursuant to a discussion we had a couple months ago specific to the bins at the health department. We've been looking for locations for those bins since then, and the animal control property was one of those locations studied. It was determined that would not be an appropriate location for a lot of reasons. So Joe Berry and Dave Schaefer found a spot on the, just southeast of where the bins are now on county property. So if you take I guess it's the southern driveway around the health department, there's a spot to the right beyond the trees, the first set of trees in between that and the drainage ditch, that they believe would be a very adequate space for those bins. There is going to be some cost for excavation, and I think they want to use crushed limestone, I think, as a base and pack it down so that the trucks can get in there, and we are evaluating that now, but they think that would be an ideal space for those bins. And if that is the location, American Waste has said that they would actually like to expand their service and add bins to that location.
Nice.
So that's great. Just also as a refresh, on May 1st, we met with American Waste. We had a very good meeting about the recycling and the tipping fees with them. It was a great conversation. It didn't go very far. It didn't make any changes, but we had a very good discussion with them. This was a big piece of that conversation, and they want to continue having a great relationship with us. So just as an update on that as well.
So you'd get back to us with costs on that?
We will. It's estimated, I think they were throwing numbers around 15 to 20,000 for excavation and the I don't know, it's a platform or it's a base that the trucks can drive on. And but that is an approximate, but they haven't had the numbers yet.
Just as a note, I know that, because I used some of it not too long ago, Elmer's uses some crushed concrete,
Okay.
which is basically limestone, but it's recycled product. And it's significantly cheaper than buying virgin stone.
Okay.
Nice.
And it packs in pretty well and holds up well. And, you know, Elmer's has that available. And, you know, as we're talking about recycling construction debris in the form of used concrete, makes a lot of sense to me.
One of the other costs was, there's a discussion about putting a fence around that perimeter of the bins to contain spillover and blowing debris. I don't know if you've seen those trucks dump those bins. It's kind of messy, and the workers have to work fairly hard to get that stuff wrangled around and put back in the truck. So that may be cost over and above the base, but I think it may be worth it if it's going to be a long-term solution.
Thank you. That brings us to old business, the Easling Pool appropriation. Dean.
Well, I was asked to look at the commissioner's budget to see if we could fund an appropriation. I don't know if you really set or discussed an amount, but within the current budget for the Board of Commissioners, you would have about $13,000 available. There's an amount that's budgeted for health insurance that's over budgeted by that amount. That would definitely be available. It would not cause your budget as far as the other line items to go over. I thought I heard an amount of $25,000 for consideration. You do not have sufficient funds in that budget to make that work. So I looked at other places within the general fund budget, and if you did consider an appropriation of $25,000, it would be my recommendation that you only fund $13,000 of that from your commissioner's budget, and then the balance would come from your miscellaneous contingency budget, which is just another cost center or department within your general fund. So $13,000 from the board's budget, and then $12,000 from your miscellaneous contingency budget for discussion.
Sonny?
Dean, do we have funds available in our capital improvement budget in that this truly is an improvement to county facilities?
I believe you would have sufficient funds in that, your 472 fund to make this as well.
I would think, in fact, I will make a motion that the Grand Terrace Board of Commissioners appropriate $25,000 from our capital improvement budget to the Easling Pool renovation. I believe that this is a improvement to a county facility, and the capital improvement budget is specifically for that purpose, to make improvements to county facility.
Motion with support, discussion. Tom?
Yeah, I don't know if it would be considered a friendly amendment, but I thought the concept of coming up with any amount of money, 10, 20, 25,000, was to be used in a fundraising process to get other people to match it. So I don't want it to look like we're just paying for, part of the improvements. I'd like to make sure that the public gets the message that this money is put up to find other people to match it, because that's how they're going to actually raise the rest of the money. Do you want to comment on that, Christine, or? I mean, I don't want it to be misunderstood that we're just,
If I could, I think
paying
the
for some of the
point
costs,
is
so.
that the citizens in the community have stepped up to the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars to make improvements to a Grand Traverse County facility, and this county board, at least thus far, have not committed any of our funds. And I think that was the purpose for us making a commitment to commit county
putting a roof-
funds toward the improvement of this facility.
We're putting a roof on it for $75,000.
Putting a roof on the building.
87.
Yes.
We are, so.
But also, I mean, for years, the county has paid for this facility, so when you say the county has not paid for anything, but I don't believe, I want to make sure I word this right. I think, I mean, I agree with your motion. I don't think we should use this at all as a match thing. They've done, how much, almost $700,000 or close to it. They've raised, I think, if we say, yeah, let's match 25,000, I mean, but I think it's a drop in the bucket, but yeah, I think it's something we can do, so.
Dan?
I'm gonna ask Dean, Dean, about how much do we use of the general fund for the Parks Department every year?
Well, the general fund appropriation to parks for 2018 is $315,000. That's a little bit more than that. So that's your annual appropriation. That funds the entire Parks Department, though.
Right.
You have an appropriation that you make to your county facilities fund, which funds the utility maintenance, building repair costs that's in a separate fund. I did not look that number up, but you also have in your capital improvement fund, as Commissioner Klaus mentioned, the roof repair is a separate capital improvement that's in, that CIP fund. So there is support over and above the parks appropriation, and, obviously the appropriation to parks supports the operation and the personnel costs. So it's not that there isn't support. I think this is specific to, I don't need to tell you what it's for. I mean, you know what this request is for.
This specifically speaks to the improvements of the locker rooms at the Eastland Pool, a Grand Traverse County facility. At least that's my, Chris, you wanted to add anything?
Well, I just want to say that typically how matches work, and I don't know if there's something written somewhere, rules, but matches work where an entity or an individual will say, I will give this amount of money if you will give that amount of money. So your funds would not come in if nobody did match it. So then we wouldn't get them.
It's not my intention that this be a match. This is a.
I'm just speaking of
an
Commissioner Mears'
investment,
idea.
A commitment of county funds toward the improvement of a county facility.
Which would be fabulous, because $625,000 was raised for the first phase, and we already have a commitment of about $30,000 to the second phase. Second phase, we're trying to raise $125,000 before June 30th, and work commences on July 2nd. And I'm Chris Erickson, Director of County Parks, by the way.
Cheryl.
So our 25 would go to the second phase, correct?
It would go, that's how
That-
we're
that would be the-
viewing
that would be
it.
okay, and I guess what I would like to say is, anytime there's a citizen organization out there that wants to raise $625,000 to make an improvement to county property, I think you ought to believe that you can come to us for 25 grand, okay? So it's an
Thank you.
awesome thing that you're doing. I don't honestly think anybody thought you could do it, to be honest with you, so kudos. That's really quite a testimonial.
Well, everybody's going to want her to fundraise for them from now
Yeah.
on.
Tell me your name again.
It's pretty amazing.
She's probably wore out after
I
this
know.
one, I imagine, so.
Well, thank you.
I think the matching idea is a good idea, and I think that's a technique that's used to bring in more money, and I think it needs to be sold that way as a matching, because what that does is it gets people who supposedly, I remember this conversation, we were told that some people didn't want to make contributions because they didn't think the county was paying anything in, but it was a matching kind of concept that they were looking at because they're used to donating money in other places that way. So I think you actually can raise more money by identifying it as matching money, because what you want to do is you want to bring in the rest of the money using some matching money to incentivize people to do it or entice them to do it. Isn't that what that's all about? Isn't that the technique?
It is. I'm going to let our expert fundraiser address
It
you
is,
on
but
that.
we've set up this phase 2 of the campaign for the locker rooms to be completed by the end of June. And so that would give us, what, 2.5 weeks to do it? I mean, ideally, yes. I mean, I agree. I wish that this would have happened a year ago. We could have done a lot more and quicker. If that's what you want to do is a match,
No.
you know,
You're still going to be short.
we would
Hopefully not.
still be short.
Hopefully not.
But if you sell it as a match, you're going to get people to,
I,
come up with
Can we even do that?
some excitement.
Just
so.
take the money.
Can we even
I'd
legally
love the
do
money.
that?
That's what I was
Just take
thinking
the
about,
money.
sitting here, is can we legally do that?
Well, we talked about that before, too.
Well,
Yeah.
the problem with the match concept, what makes me a little nervous is it makes it sound like you're donating, and you're not donating. Lawfully, you can't loan or donate money. What you're doing is
to yourself.
you're allocating funds for a county facility. And when we start thinking about a match, and I think it's good outside the box thinking, but I think legally we're confined to
Changes
this
the
box of, we're funding.
I think
a county
we're
fund.
simply appropriating county funds from our capital improvement fund toward the improvement of a county-owned facility.
Did we already have a motion?
We have a
I-
motion
And
on the
actually,
floor.
let me add something here, even though I've been very tough on the pool. I would even say, if you don't hit your goal, come back. I mean, it is a county facility. I mean, for what they've added in here, if they need another 40,000 after that to rehab that.
Who is this guy?
I know.
is this
I'm in a
guy?
good mood.
He wants a tin can, all of a sudden he's just.
You know, I mean,
Commissioner Klaus,
Yes.
I just want to say that I think if we view that as, this is another investment, I know that you all have been very supportive of putting the roof on, but this is yet another investment in a part of our pool that really needs it, that wasn't part of the original plan. And if any of you have spent time in those locker rooms and had to deal with any of the plumbing issues and things like that, I just want to remind that this is our facility, it's the county's facility, and I know that there are other things that can be paid for and improved upon, but if we're going to give a brand-new pool, I think we need to go all the way, and this would show that you're helping with that investment in ourselves as the county and in our community. So if we could view it like that, and I love the match idea too, but I think that time is not on our side, and the if-then of it, if you give $25,000 to somebody out there, then we'll give $25,000. Sounds like if we don't get that 25, then the county's not going to give that money.
I really think we're better off to make a commitment of county funds, and I believe there's people in the community out there that's looking to see whether the county is going to are in fact supporting this redevelopment.
It's just showing even more support, and that's fantastic. We're thrilled with that.
So you would get all of the benefit of the match without the match. 'Cause you're right, people are watching. It would be huge for us.
Yeah, I mean, basically, at the end of all this, we're gonna have you got almost a whole new pool.
Right.
For all intents and purposes. So, I mean, I agree that let's invest and get the rest of that up to par, and
We're gonna see an $800,000 renovation of a county-owned facility for a commitment of $25,000 as of right now.
And we've been through a long journey, commissioners, on this one, and just think of the end result. That's going to be incredible. It's going to be something to celebrate for all of us in the community.
I burned my close the pool signs. That's why I was.
We've been working on you 3 years. 3 years, we've done a lot.
I've lightened up since I'm leaving.
Okay, the last word. It's not a match officially, but people would be very kind if they would match the money that we're contributing, and that's the way to get to your end goal. You need to get to your end goal.
Sure.
So we're putting more money in than we would have otherwise, and now we want other people to come forward and put more money in so that you can reach your goal,
And we
That's
can
the-
promote that, believe me.
Promote it, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call vote? Did somebody say no?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so the roll call vote then. Mayor?
Yes.
Gorfulet?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Lathrop?
No.
Klaus?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it,
Thank you,
and we'll
guys.
keep you apprised of everything.
All right.
Takes us to second public comment. Any, what do you want?
Anyone? No?
Public comment, notices.
Yes, I have,
Or Commissioner Department reports, I guess.
I went out for the third or fourth time to Old Mission Peninsula today and looked at the flooding situation and the drains there. And Commissioner Klaus was with me. I wanted to point out too that next Monday is, I think it's 7 o'clock at the American Legion Hall, Old Mission. The Drain Commissioner is going to have a meeting to address that situation and try to evaluate it. So just want the public to know that we're looking at it and we're trying to figure out ways to make it better.
Thank you.
Right now, it's kind of low-key, but I got an email today that something that Dr. Lathrop's been working on is actually getting closer, that August 2nd, the Colonel Demis T. Kroll VA Clinic groundbreaking is going to happen over at, over in Chums Corner area. So looks like they're going to try to have it in place next year for ribbon cutting, so we're a lot closer than we have been in years, but it'll be interesting. I mean, it's neat to see the name attached to it, and if you haven't seen the plaque at the airport, it's pretty cool too, so.
Anybody else? Takes us to notices. Community forum tomorrow, June 7th at 5:15 in the training room to meet the candidates for administrator. And then final round will be interviews at 8 o'clock on the 8th of June in Commission Chambers.
So, does anybody know exactly how to explain what we're going to do at the community forum? We're going to ask the public, right, to write questions on paper, and we're going to...
I believe that
Yeah.
James Petrino is going to have the public give him the questions, and he's going to ask the questions.
Okay.
Last I heard. And he's going to explain everything probably at the beginning of the meeting tomorrow on how it's going to be handled. And it'll be in the training room.
So the public is going to be able to ask questions. That's the
Yes, they're
that's
going
the main
to write
reason
their
why they would want
questions
to come.
down
Yeah.
on cards and give them to Mr. Petrino, and then he will read the questions.
Okay. And then the next morning, when we meet, we're going to take some of that information as input when we're making our
Yes,
Friday
at-
meeting.
At
Is
the
that
beginning of
right?
your
Yeah.
meeting on Friday, he'll be kind of summarizing everything. I think he's going to work all the way through the night and summarize it all.
Okay.
My
All the
understanding
comments and
is he
everything,
was-
and
People who attend tomorrow night are going to have opportunity to fill out comment cards,
Mhm.
and that information will be provided to us as part of the Friday morning agenda.
Any closed session needed?
Nope.
With that, we're adjourned. That I got right.
There you go.
Yeah, that you don't have to vote on.
It's different when you're in that chair, isn't it?
That's what I said, it's like coaching a ball game, there's all kinds of great coaches.
We got any